everybody. We are back today with Brandy of Brandy Burrow Astrology, and we are going to be looking at the charts for September 11th, 2001. We're going to be looking at the chart for when American Airlines Flight 11 flew into the North Tower, when American Airlines Flight 175 flew into the South Tower, when American Airlines Flight 77 flew into the Pentagon, and when United 93 crashed. Now, just to be very clear about what this video is and what this video is not, this specific video is strictly about the event itself. There are a lot of things surrounding this event. A lot of questions. Those questions will not be brought up in this video. There will be another video to go along with this that will deal more with that angle of things. This is strictly just the event itself that we'll be talking about, these four separate charts, and the time these four separate events, which made one big event, took place. Okay, so should we just, I feel like that's kind of enough backstory.
Yeah, let's just look at the event, look at the chart when things happen, and kind of see what the astrology reflects as far as, everything that happens seems to be reflected in the sky. So it'd be kind of interesting to see the charts with it.
Absolutely. Okay, let me make sure I pull the right picture. I think it's this one. Hope it's this one. Okay. So this is the chart for when American Airlines Flight 11 flew into the North Tower. It took off from Boston at 7:59 and then hit the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. Oh, and also, I also have here in my notes, I did take some notes to make everything streamlined. The building collapsed about an hour and a half after the crash, and Mohammed Atta was the hijacker pilot who crashed the plane, who was like the ringleader on that flight when this happened. What stands out to you?
Well, the first thing is that Libra ascendant, a common ascendant sign you see when there's multiple victims in an event or tragedy. So, totally appropriate that this is a Libra ascendant on this chart. And the moon, which would co-rule the victims here, in the ninth house, which you get a lot of ninth house activity, at least I think so, when you see anything involving like large vehicles like a plane or aircraft.
Yeah, that definitely, that definitely, that part stood out to me too. And even just the scope of this, like the ninth house also expands it, so it feels very just with the massive scope of and how this literally had the world's attention.
Yeah, and you can even see ninth house activity start to come in when you're dealing with foreign countries and these sorts of aspects as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It is interesting that the ascendant and the eighth house, where you find topics like death, are sharing the same ruler of Venus and Leo,
and in the 10th, which is so public.
Yeah, happening in front of everyone.
With and in Leo, like with a big old spotlight, like on.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the 7th?
Yeah, I was looking at that. You got the 7th house in Aries, in an aggressive sign, energetic sign. It's ruled by that Mars in Capricorn in the 3rd house, where you also see travel as well. And it's interesting that Mars is in the sign of Capricorn.
Militant.
Yeah.
When I see I didn't mean to cut you off. When I see that, I think militant, and it's it's exalted there. But it feels very militant here.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You know, Mercury is interesting right there, sitting right on the ascendant. It's about 3 minutes before, you know, which is also interesting. You know, when you get the travel aspect and
yes. And even, you know, with the ninth house having Gemini on the cusp, you could be looking at, you know, like some foreign something or another coming to the front.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, the sun is getting my attention too. That, you know, sun in Virgo, almost in the 12th house as well. You know, so, and it's in the 11th technically. So you're getting like groups, you're getting organizations, and you're getting it almost going into a, you know, it's just now leaving the 12th house. So it's like something kind of weird about groups, and you're getting other death markers there too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's becoming, you know, perhaps becoming more visible.
Yeah.
Should we look at the stars, the big stars?
Yes,
Or the which one do you want to take?
I will take, let me take the ascendant, the 14 degrees Libra, and see what we got.
Okay.
So we got a fixed star at 13 degrees and 27 minutes. So that's within a degree here. Destructiveness, scavenging, repulsiveness, malevolence, suicide, greed, injuries.
Okay. That fits.
Yeah.
That fits.
And then you got a 15-degree Libra, guardians, ministers of state, custodians, treasurers, force behind the scenes, hidden masters, economists, architects, designers. You know, I find the economists interesting because, you know, the buildings that were
Yes.
targeted were to affect, you know, the economy.
Yes. Yeah, there were, yeah, actually that was something I was looking at last night, were the tenants of the different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What fixed stars or what areas would you look at?
I wanted to see them. Well, I'll say this. I mean, that moon also catches my attention. It's conjunct the galactic anticenter.
Yeah.
Which almost feels like it could have. I'll just say this for this part. It feels like it perhaps got shocked. It feels like,
Yeah.
but it definitely catches my attention for that reason. Let's see if there's an actual fixed star. Okay, yeah, there is. There's one at 28:45. Calamities, danger, violence, which also feels very fitting here.
Right.
Oh wait, there's also one at, hold on. Yeah, okay, yeah, I forgot about that one being there. Yeah, Polaris is at 28:34. Sickness, trouble, loss, affliction, spiritual powers. Yeah.
Yeah. That the fixed stars are really strong in this chart. You know, when we look at charts and kind of see where the fixed stars are at, this one, you have a lot of intense ones here.
You do, and some, you know, sometimes we'll pull them and we're like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, who the fuck does that play in? But these are very, like, they're very like, they make sense without. Oh, actually, let's pull Mars. Let's look at Mars.
Yeah, let's do Mars.
Mars is okay, and there is a fixed star at 1 degree Capricorn.
Okay.
Oh wait, there's also one at 116 Capricorn.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
We'll look at both. It's closer to the one at 116. Eye trouble, blindness. Okay, now I will throw this out there. What I think is interesting about that blindness thing is there's something about the galactic anticenter and that moon. I do think that galactic anticenter can be blinding.
Oh, interesting.
So that's interesting that, and I won't go more into it than that, but I do think that it's interesting that that does come in here with this Mars as well.
Yeah. And do you see that says no concern for human life on that?
Yes, the one
Shit.
at, with the way, yeah, the one at 104.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one says even more beyond the eye trouble and blindness. It says eye trouble, blindness, depression, hopelessly doomed, morbid religious outlook.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. No concern for human life. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. It's yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
That really is. That's really something. I hadn't looked at these before.
Yeah, we usually look at the fixed stars while we're on recording, and yeah, I hadn't seen that either. So that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really something else.
That okay. I'm gonna go back to that sun real quick in Virgo.
Yeah.
With all the like first responders involved in this, in a sign of like Virgo of service, and in an 11th house of organizations, I think this might be reflecting all the first responders here. I was kind of like, the sun keeps catching my attention. I think that's where we're going with that placement.
Very well could be, yeah. Is there a star at 18? Is that a... No, there's not.
There's not.
The other ones are too wide, probably.
Yeah, they're pretty wide orbs. You have a 3-degree orb on each side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're a little too wide.
Should we look at the at when the other plane hit the south tower?
Yes.
Okay, let me stop sharing this. Okay. Okay. All right. So there's not a lot of change here. Like not really much at all. Except for Pluto does move into Pluto.
Yeah, Pluto goes into the 2nd house here.
Yes.
And Mercury is more seated in the 12th house now.
That is true. Yeah, by about instead of just a few minutes, by 3 degrees or so.
Right. So we're getting obviously more death, more that sort of destruction. The Pluto in the 2nd house is interesting. It's going from the 3rd house to a 2nd house of values and money.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on that. I'm trying to think what with the 2nd plane, what anchors that in the 2nd house, to me, I'm talking this one through, but to me, it's more of this is like the moment everyone goes from, oh, this wasn't an accident, this is targeted, like, because at first you're thinking, was this an accident? What's going on? Now we're like, okay, I think the values are clear, or intentions, maybe that way, are here.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, because like the North Tower, there's not a lot of video footage, I don't believe, of that one, of the flight hitting that one, but because people had out like their cameras and stuff after that, there's a lot more footage of like the South Tower being hit. And then it becomes abundantly clear, I would think, for most people, this isn't a fucking accident. Like,
yeah, this is not good. Yeah, because this was on live TV. Because at this point, special reports, breaking news coverage is showing this, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And then that happens before everyone's eyes, and you're like, "Okay, now we know what's going on."
Where were you when 9/11 happened?
I was asleep, and I hate to be that way. I worked a night shift for a debt collector. And so I was about an hour before I was getting up for my shift. And of course, phone's ringing and I don't even want to say this, it sounds so insensitive, but work called and said, don't come in, the phone lines are down.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Like, you can't call East Coast today, so just stay home. Like, but that's what was going on for me.
Huh.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not coming in anyway. There's, this horrible tragedy. I'm not calling people to shake them down for money, so no problem, but
yeah, like, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things like, oh, I was in 8th grade choir. I remember walking in and they never had the news on, like, ever. They never had the TVs on unless it was like some fucking movie we were watching in school, or but they had on like all the major news stations. I walk in, I'm like, what the fuck? like what the fuck? Yeah. It's one of those events that I don't think you forget, like where you were, like generation defining kind of, or whatever.
Yeah. I just remember being in bed, the phone ringing, and all these at the time it was answering machines. So you could hear like people leaving a message down in the living room, like, get up, watch TV. Oh, this is work. The phone lines are down, so don't come in. And I'm like, what? And then it's like, okay.
You're like, what is going on? Yeah, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah. And I also remember it was my grandfather's birthday.
Was it?
Yep, he was a very, very proud patriot and veteran from Korean War.
Yeah, that's kind of that had to have been a shitty thing to have happened on his birthday.
Yeah, that's how he saw it too. Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to mention about this chart, or should we move on to the one from the Pentagon?
I think that's really it. This one, we just see Pluto kind of moving. We kind of see things a little bit more anchored in. Yeah, let's move on to the next chart.
Okay, let's see here. We'll share. Okay, so American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from Dulles International Airport at 8:20 a.m. and flies into the Pentagon at 9:37. There's the major change that happens with, well, there are actually a few more. Saturn moves into the 8th. We also now have Pisces on the cusp of the 5th and the 6th house.
Yeah.
And Virgo on the cusp of the 11th and 12th. With Aquarius and Leo intercepted.
Right. Yeah, the Saturn in the 8th gets my attention first. We're, gosh, at this point, I don't know how to say this. At the moment of these crashes, of course, there's death. With Saturn moving here, it's really implying, and it's sign like Gemini, where you're getting multiple deaths as well. There's some sort of huge increase at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. It is interesting, the Aquarius interception as well in the 4th house. I'm trying to read into that. You got the 4th house cusp in Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign. I could also take that as an indication of mass casualty event here. But the Aquarius energy being kind of hidden and intercepted, I almost wonder if I can say this the right way. Such shocking events as this morning is going on at this point, I don't want to say it's not shocking anymore, but I feel like it's like
we become kind of numb to it.
Yeah, you're not getting that. Aquarius can be very kind of explosive, kind of like a bursting free, kind of a shock or a surprise or just something weird. It doesn't make sense. And now we're getting this energy intercepted. And yeah, so I think at this point we're like, I don't want to say it that way, but it's like you can't be shocked anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost yeah. It's like no, I do understand what you mean. Like not that it wasn't shocking, because it was, but it's like this country and the world had already seen these other two planes do, fly into these tall ass buildings. It's almost, how much worse can it get, and it not being shocking that it did, get worse,
Yeah.
so to speak, or something along those lines.
Yeah. It's very, very weird how that energy is intercepted here at this point.
Yes.
And of course, Leo is too.
With the chart ruler there.
Yeah, in the 10th house, in a very public space. It's
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know quite what to make of that one.
I do, but I'll do it elsewhere.
Okay, gotcha.
I do have some thoughts, but I'm biting my finger now because
I know, yeah, yeah.
I won't, but I do have perhaps some thoughts about this particular chart. Yeah.
Yeah, this one I know you can go more directions. I will say this, by this point in the day, you have Virgo, the sign of service, now, like I said, on the 11th and 12th house cusp.
Mhm.
And then you have the house of service, 6th house, and that 5th house as well. In Pisces, we do have a huge level of response, of service, of
Yes.
people trying to help each other,
Yes.
I think that's definitely reflected here.
And that was, I mean, this was a tragic event. This was terrible, awful, but it was really, I can't think of another word, but beautiful to see people come and try to help. Like, saying that's beautiful, that sounds awful, because there was nothing beautiful about any of this, but watching people come and help.
It was uniting, politics aside, religion
Yes.
aside. It was just a oneness.
Yes. We were just, yes. And I wonder, Pisces energy is very oneness, right? Very, and having that in the 6th house, which is like reality, the mundane world. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and I know what you're saying there. It's definitely an event that's bringing people just, I don't even know what to say, like deep down into the soul purpose here of,
Yes.
being together and helping.
Yes. Yeah. Should we, let me see, because sorry, I got busy lighting my incense when you were talking about my damn fixed star book up. Is there a fixed star around that Saturn? That's one we didn't look at, did we?
I do not think we looked at the Gemini stuff. Let's see.
Might be an interesting one to look at in this chart, just since it moves to the 8th.
There's a 15-degree, 17-minute. That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Currents of fate, fluctuating emotions, irreversible changes to rhythm of life, sense of oblivion.
The irreversible changes to rhythm of life is interesting here, because this event changed a lot of things.
Everything. I mean,
yes,
down to the way we travel.
Yes.
Just the everybody who was alive when this happened, that's stamped into their brains. No one can ever forget. Yeah, it's changed on so many levels.
Yes. Yes. Like, it kind of, it's something, it's an event that kind of has colored all things in some, you know what I mean? So that is interesting, that irreversible changes to the rhythm of life.
Yeah.
Should we look at the one for flight 93?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. This is United 93 takes off from New Jersey at 8:42 a.m. I want to say this one was like really late getting off the ground. I want to say I read that like There was another one that I think was delayed too, but this one I think was like the longest delay. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I think
I say that's right. I'm going from memory, but I think so.
but it actually gets in the air at 8:42. The passenger revolt started at 9:57. That's what they have anyway. I mean, and then it flies into the crashes in Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m. And this was actually a plane that was authorized to be shot down, which is interesting.
Yeah, and they think that was like information that came out years later. There's a
Yes.
great, wonderful documentary on National Geographic Channel. I think you can get through Discovery Plus, but they actually talked to the two pilots that were in the air to take it down. And I mean, I never like knew this. They weren't just going to shoot it down. They were going to crash into it.
Damn, I didn't know that part. I thought it was just like taking it out.
No, one was a female pilot, and then I think the other was a male. And one says, I got the head, I got the tail. They were
damn.
They were gonna sacrifice their lives to take it down.
Damn. That's damn.
You didn't hear about any of that at the time. It was like,
yeah.
I didn't know that till like a few years ago, and I watched it and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's some like, not that this isn't heavy as it is, but that adds another like layer of heaviness to all of this.
I mean, talk about service.
Yeah. Really, for real.
Yeah.
This chart, okay, so we do have some changes in this one. We do have now we've got Libra on the cusp of the 12th and of the 1st. Leo is no longer intercepted. Aquarius is no longer intercepted. We have Aries on the cusp of the 7th and the 6th. Now we've got Cancer and Capricorn intercepted. But there's no change in the placement. Like the planets are still in the same houses. It just, the format of the chart kind of.
Yeah, you know, now you have the 4th house in a cusp in Aquarius. You know, and you can look at the 4th house, like endings, outcomes. It's really interesting how it goes into goes from like such a sign like Capricorn, which is solid and like this is the way it is, to like Aquarius, which is, and maybe this is just reflecting, because at this point we're like, is this over? It's like, you know, this is like, we're really confused at this point. I would think that Aquarius energy is now kind of coming back in. We go from like numb to like, like what?
And even these people on the plane revolting and getting them to change their course so they just fly the plane into the ground.
Yeah,
that's also kind of shocking because these other planes have made their targets, right?
Yeah, this definitely changes the plan and is unpredictable, so to say. Yeah, it's a great observation. Yeah, because I believe this one was going towards the White House or Capitol building. I don't know if they know for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen both kind of. Yeah, because I could be wrong, but I don't think they really know. It just one of those would make sense, you know.
Yeah. I want to look up, see if there's anything on that 25 degrees Libra for some reason. That's
okay.
There's 24 degrees, 14 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's pretty well within orb. Inspiration, riches, fame, honor, popularity, benefits through travel, success through work. You know, with this, and I know we're not going into theories here, but I do know the story with this is that the passengers, revolted and
yes,
possibly took this plane down, or at least made them. That would very much make sense with that fixed star representing the victims here. Honor.
Yes, it would, because that is like, I mean, you know, doing something like that. There is something, I mean, that's obviously very honorable to do to, I mean, it is, and that, you know,
Yeah. And talking about the pilots that were in the air also.
absolutely.
So it's interesting that energy that's ruling this chart here.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Did we ever look at Venus?
Yeah, I think that was in between a 3-degree orb on. Let me check again for the
Oh,
fixed star.
I think you might be right about that.
Yeah, because there's a fixed star at 15 degrees and then 19. Oh wait, 19 would work. No, maybe what were we looking at? We were looking at something else, maybe. I don't know. I swear we were looking at that.
Okay.
We were looking at Virgo. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, the sun.
Okay. So there's a 19-degree Leo fixed star. Prudent, restrained, mistrustful, self-controlled, but angry when aroused, when roused. Love of command, power to achieve, and good with animals.
Huh. That's interesting. I have to sit with that one for a minute.
Yeah.
Power to achieve. Well, I think in this particular, because I mean, that was like the same degree for all of these, but I think in this chart, it does the power to achieve kind of thing does make sense here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
In this particular one.
Absolutely.
What about Aries on the cusp of the 7th and the 6th?
Yeah. With, we've had Aries on the 7th on these charts. With the 6th house, though, kind of going back into service or yeah, I'm trying to think what to make of that. This could also reflect these passengers too.
Fearless
Like
service.
very controlled. Here's what we got to do,
Yeah. Yeah, it could.
Militant as well, I mean,
Yeah.
they stood up, they were warriors here.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I can see that. Is there anything else
about the 6th house here? Because I'm trying to think of what else you can kind of take into when we look at events or, even forensics. Like you get a 6th house when people are watching.
coveting? Yeah, the coveting thing there.
Also like running away. That could be, and also like a reflect changing plans here, directions on what was supposed to happen.
What about like, okay, like, because almost makes me wonder, okay, so like Aries energy, right? It can be fearless, but it can also be fearful.
Yeah.
And there's something about this on the 7th house here, and then like the actions of these people on this plane with Aries on the 6th. It almost seems like these people made the people who did this fearful. In some way, there's some like they kind of turned the tables a little bit.
It can be intimidation. It can be, it can invoke some sort of fear. Aries is also, it can be kind of a fast energy. It's a starter energy. It doesn't usually have energy to finish out. It's like, okay, I'm propelling and someone's got to take me forward here. But I kind of see that energy at play too, along with all that going on.
Yeah.
The fact that the 6th house is also in Aries really makes me think the perpetrators, the one, the terrorists, that they lose total control here because the other people are getting control. They're having to share the control for sure.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. I could see that here too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to?
I just find it interesting. I know this all happens within a certain block of time, but it is really fascinating that all four of these charts stick within that Libra ascendant representing multiple victims.
Yes,
Yeah, it's definitely reflective of the events.
yes, yeah, it is. It all stays in like, yeah, in that time frame.
Yeah, this guy has a way of always reflecting what's happening. It's just mind blowing every time we look at astrology with these things.
It is, and sometimes like with those fixed stars, it just comes through so like literal, like
Yeah.
yeah. Um, is there anything else that you feel like sharing about any of this, or any last thoughts or anything like that?
Sad story still. I mean, we're 20, almost 22 years
That's,
later. Still seems so fresh.
yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that I don't know that it will never not. Probably.
Yeah, my heart still goes out to everyone. I have a lot of New York friends, and New York's like, I call it my other home. That's where my heart lives, like where I vacation to all the time. And the memorial is beautiful there. If you're ever in New York City, definitely stop by and pay your respects. It's a beautiful memorial.
I actually didn't get to do that when I was there, but that is something that I would love to do
Yeah.
the next time. Me and Silas go see buildings.
Yeah, they did really good with the memorial.
We'll have to check that out then. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and head off. But Brandy, where can you be found?
You can find me at brandyburrowastrology.com and YouTube and Instagram at brandyburrowastrology. And Ellie, I always appreciate you having me on to discuss these. Thank
Thank you
you.
for wanting to do this, because this one needed to be in our catalog.
Our library.
Yeah, our library. It needed to be here for sure.
Thank you. And where can everyone find you, Ellie?
You can find me here on YouTube at Let's F with Astrology. You can find me on my website at SaturnSeason.com. Find me on Instagram at SaturnSeasonAstrology. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna head off, but I'll see y'all later. Thank you so much for being here.